This is David. Welcome back behind the velvet rope. Let's just get right into it because we are joined by it's literally everyone's favorite. Her name is Sarah. Her name is Frasier.
Hi, David Yontef. How are you?
How are you, my darling?
Honey, I am great. I wanted to ask you a really quick story. We had a listener say, "Hey, I've heard you guys both talk that you have been in toxic work environments." And I couldn't remember. Were you in a toxic work environment ever?
I mean, I worked for Martha Stewart. Do I
Mm.
need to say anything else? I worked for Martha Stewart. I mean, I don't want to start on a negative note, but yeah, girl, have you?
But yeah. Well, yes. I famously talked about my experience on the Kane Show on
Oh,
Hot
yes.
95 in Washington, D.C. It was an iHeartRadio show. Now it's been 10 years since I was on that show. And I'm so grateful because so many Kane Show listeners still listen to me in my podcast. That's why my podcast has been successful. And sadly, Kane passed away over 2 years ago from complications to his addiction. But yeah, it was very toxic. I lived through, oh my God, I'm sure very similar things to you. I mean, staplers thrown at our head, trash cans thrown into pictures and being smashed, being yelled at, being secretly recorded. What else? Let's see. Our bosses basically saying when we complained about his erratic behavior, you can't have it both ways. You can't be on tape when he secretly recorded us saying negative things about him and then want him to change. I've been in a toxic work environment. It's very wild. And we were basically bullied into not being able to hang out with other radio personalities from competing stations because that was seen as being a traitor. Took me a long time. I actually had to go to therapy because it was a therapist that made me realize. She said, "You're basically with an abusive husband, someone that sucker punches you in the face one day and then tells you they love you the next." And I never equated it to that until I heard that analogy. And then I was like, wow, because I was so messed up by it. And that's how I got into mindful eating and because I gained so much weight because I was so depressed working there.
If you only knew about Manjaro back then, you could have stabbed yourself with a shot and lost all your weight. Guys, DM me.
Oh,
I
that
love
would have
it.
been healthy.
Um, Look, Martha, this is why you're able to work with me. Kane trained you well. I'm like a pussycat compared to Kane. Look, I respect Martha so much. Like she is an icon, but I mean, this is a true story. Like I was in charge of hiring. I was like head of HR. She literally basically said, not in so many words, look, there was a certain aesthetic to working at Martha, and she basically kind of said, I don't want you to hire heavy people overweight. We didn't have Manjar. And I was like, okay, now let me just explain also, like I'm a lawyer, like Martha, you can't, like we can't, this isn't how it works. Like, even if this is what you want, this is the problem with working at Martha. Like you just, there was no rational. It's like if Martha wants something, you got to do it. Like Martha, I can't physically. And then she followed up. Who was this? I've never seen this person before. Well, this is a new hire, Martha. Well, that person's overweight. I told you, I'm like, wait, when you said this 3 weeks ago, you were serious. You would physically don't want me to hire overweight people. Like, that can't be enforced, Martha, dear. And there's also a lot of things wrong with it. You couldn't rationalize. So it was things like that were complicated with working at Martha. I mean, she would come in and like the blinds. Look, I don't blame her for this. Like, say that there were 17 windows like against the wall, the blinds, if they were like off by half an inch, they all had to be the exact same. Well, I mean, I kind of don't blame her for that.
I don't blame her. Right. You have an aesthetics company.
Right.
People is insane to me. I mean, it's just that's so crazy. I understand like you want people to be clean and neat and some basics, but basing people on their appearance versus their ability is insanity. But that doesn't shock. I mean, that doesn't shock me whatsoever.
And you want to know why? I have PTSD. This is why I stabbed myself with the Manjaro, because I'm still having the PTSD. She was gonna maybe get rid of me if I got a bit heavy. But nothing personal on your desk, no
Wait,
personal pictures, nothing.
okay. I feel like what's a lasting lesson here for our listeners though? Like, did you quit that job and were you happy about it? I finally, after 6 years, walked away and I never regretted it. At first, it was very hard because we went from being local celebrities to people not even knowing that I left. I was never allowed to say goodbye. It was very hard to go. Like we used to walk in every restaurant in DC and all our meals were comped. I had to start paying for meals. First world problem. But
Poor thing.
It took me a while to reacclimate, but it was the greatest thing I ever did for myself because it helped me grow. And in the end, I don't want to say I was right, but people doubted me at first, and then it all worked out. But I don't want to say that because Kane was a very sick person, and may he rest in peace. But what's your lesson? Do you think get out of a toxic work environment or stick it out because you learn a lot? What's your take?
My take is just like Bethany Frankel is shooting her mouth out all over town, that she's doing it for herself now, and she has her own YouTube. I say I'm such an entrepreneur. I've told every employer I worked with basically to go fuck themselves. I tell Bravo to go fuck themselves when they piss me off. I feel you have yourself. You are it's I'm going to start a self-help podcast in my next life. Just be a strong person and believe in yourself and don't put up with that. You are worth it.
You are worth it. And they are bullies, aren't they? They bullied us for so many
Bullies.
things. I had stood up.
Bullies bully people that they can get away with. They will not bully a person that tells them to go fuck themselves, put on the knee pads and suck the dick because they don't want the fight.
And you know what the thing I learned too is you have so much more power than you think. When you're a good employee, like you're an exceptional employee, and so was I. Showing up early, people liked me. I worked well with others. Talented, all those things. They really will not fire you because it's very hard to find good employees, but they will fuck with you. They will try to fuck with you and get in your head. And I wish I had knew my worth then, because that whole thing about, if we were caught hanging out with somebody from an opposing radio station, like people would start talking about you at the office, like, "Ooh, I saw this photo of you." In that moment, I should have been like, "Fuck yourself, eat my huge vag, you piece of shit. Don't you ever come out." Because they would have backed down. They would have backed down 110%. They completely would have, but I wasn't strong enough then.
See?
So there's your
there
lesson.
you go. I agree with you. You know who I think knows, who's trying to know her worth?
Who?
Is that Scheana Shay. That's Scheana Shay over there. Now, mind you, I've heard some rumors. I've heard some rumors that I don't know about Tom. I certainly don't know about Ariana. I don't know about Raquel, but the rest of the cast, I'm hearing the money ain't so great, guys. The money ain't so great this season again. That's what I've heard. I've heard, I think for Ariana, I don't know. Ariana has so much on the side. Maybe it's favored nations. I don't know. But like I heard people are not making what you think to come back. But I love that Scheana, people are coming after her and saying, "You're in a picture. You're standing next to Tom. Brock is on the other side, or Schwartzy. The arms are around him." And people are coming after Scheana and she's like, "Are you kidding me?" I'm in Lala too, speaking up. "I'm doing my job." This is her job. You have to sign in when it says all cast event, you have to film, just like David and Sarah have told you last season. It's all noise. Everyone's going to film with everyone else when they sign the contract. It's all, people are, you can say you're not going to speak to someone, you're icing them out of your life. That happens. I ice people out all the time. The older I get, the smaller my circle gets. When you are physically interacting with someone at a daily basis because it's your job, you have no choice. And like Melissa Rivers said recently on a show with me, she's like, "You know how many network executives?" She said this. I'm not talking at her. I've been in a picture with that, like I haven't liked. Like, this is called work. You have to work with plenty of people that are listening to this at their desk right now in their 9-to-5 job. You have to work with a lot of people you don't like.